Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I didn't want much of anything except to take a second to say hello and to also share a thought. As you know, I like to share thoughts that might be helpful to some people who are watching. I was giving advice to a young lady in college recently, and we were talking about, or she had, I pretty much told her I'll answer any question that you have, and she had some questions about men and guys, and why girls get pregnant by men who who have a bunch of kids and stuff like that. And what I told her was, I told her what I know as a human being, and also what I know as a scholar, just based on things I've studied and read and stuff like that. And I follow this really interesting evolutionary biologist by the name of Robert Sapolsky, who's at Stanford University. If you've watched my videos, you've seen me talk about him before, and he's very interesting because he talks about, among other things, the process of mating and procreation, and basically what attracts certain men to certain women. And he doesn't just talk about humans, he talks about the entire animal kingdom. And one of the things that Dr. Sapolsky says, which I believe, is that if you look at the structure of the human brain, much of what humans operate on in terms of instincts and desires and things like that, and aversions, is really built on the same premise and same set of systems as most animals. So really, if you want to understand what lies in the heart of a man, just look at the way animals behave in certain situations. For example, when animals get jealous and mad over a woman, the males will kill each other. They'll fight to the death sometimes, and the dominant male ends up getting a chance to stick around and hang out with the woman. And truth is, in real life, you see that play out all the time. Especially imagine it at a club, at a nightclub, where two guys, are doing the whole peacock thing. Just trying to be bright and shiny and showing how much money they have. Animals do that too. Males try to impress females by showing, like a peacock may show that it has extra colors in its feathers, or a lion may, do something to show that he's dominant among all the lions, and then they challenge each other. And so again, the same thing that happens in a nightclub happens all throughout the animal kingdom. Human beings are not that much different. The only difference is that we have the prefrontal cortex and some other things. I'm not a neuroscientist here, but from what I understand, the prefrontal cortex gives us the ability to take those innate instincts and make them more complex. So we take the same ideas, but we just sort of make them a little more complicated. And sometimes we get so complicated that we believe that we're different, that we don't have the same instincts. And I just think that that's a huge mistake, because the process of evolution and procreation has existed for millions of years. It has had a very long time to refine itself, to suck you in. No matter how smart you are, how slick you think you are, Mother Nature is a sneaky, sneaky phenomenon. And so, what a lot of people will do is they think they can kind of outsmart the process. They can sneak, they can sort of dip their toe in certain situations, and those situations won't catch up with them. And then next thing you know, they're looking back saying, "Whoa, what happened? Why me? How did this happen to me?" And I think about that in particular when you talk about, and this is how I was explaining to the young lady about, why certain women get pregnant by guys that that guy that has 10 or 15 babies mamas, or whatever. And and it seems just like the dumbest, craziest thing. But the thing you have to understand is that love and sex and attraction is not a natural, or excuse me, it is natural. Sorry, I didn't mean to say not natural. It is not a logical process most of the time. It's an emotional process. It's a physical process. It's an instinctual process. A lot of times, even little things like the smell. In fact, they said with female hamsters, if they put a male hamster in the middle of a group of females, it causes things to happen based on the smell of that male. They can even blow the scent of a man into a cage, and it changes the behavior of the female hamsters. So even with human beings, and there's a direct translation here. I mean, don't think that we're not animals. If somebody chopped you up and put you on a barbecue grill, you would taste meaty and chewy and delicious like any other animal. So stop believing that you're not an animal. But basically, this translation comes back to humans. So anyway, my point in bringing all this up is to just kind of say that, in a way, at least this kind of worked for me, and I've seen it work for other people. I've kind of thought about attraction to the opposite sex a little bit like a drug. That when you get hooked on a drug, it's hard to be logical at that point. A lot of crackheads can tell you all day why smoking crack is bad, why it's going to kill them, why they don't like it, why they want to quit, but they'll keep going back to the pipe because that high that they get, that good feeling they receive from smoking crack overwhelms the long-term consequences. And I think love can kind of be a little bit like that kind of drug. And and once you're sucked in, sometimes it's hard to get out. Sometimes you can get out, but sometimes it's really difficult to get out, especially in the first 6 months, where literally the chemicals that shoot through your brain are so powerful that you really don't even realize what's going on sometimes until you're several months into the process. And by that time, the baby daddy might have got you pregnant or whatever. And so my theory is that, or this is what I tell my girls, this is what I tell my guy kids, this is what I tell any young woman who asks, and it's true also for young men. I think there's a parallel but a different analogy, but I'll just talk about women for now because this is what this is what we talked about, but it's also something that I think can be applied for anybody. And I just tell them, look, before you get hooked on the drug, evaluate the drug from a logical and distant standpoint and decide if you want that drug in your life. So that means that if you meet a man who appears very clearly like he cannot be the father of your kids, that he would be a horrible father for your children, don't even give that man your phone number. The biggest mistake people make is they say, "Oh, I'm not planning on having a baby with him. I'm not planning on having sex with him. I'm not planning on him getting me pregnant." And they just say, "Well, so what's the point? Who cares? I'll just give him my number because he's cute." And next thing you know, you're spending time with this guy who is not who's not good for your future, but you're flirting with danger. You're flirting with the death of your future because every time you spend a little time with that person, the situation's sucking you in a little more. And next thing you know, he might say the right thing, wear the right outfit, have the right smell. He might catch you at the right time. When women are ovulating, they tend to be more sexually aroused. This is true for women all throughout the animal kingdom, not just humans. And next thing you know, you've made a mistake. And how did you get to that mistake? Well, you got to think. You got to use critical analysis. Go back. Don't look at what happened at step Z. Look at what happened at A, B, C, and D. That's what led you up to Z. Because if there is no A, B, and C, then there never will be a Z. So if you chop that dude off from the jump, don't even give him your number. Tell him to go away. Let him know that he's not the caliber of type of man that you're looking for. Then you never get to that point where he can suck you in and get you addicted. Because guys that have good game. In fact, most of the guys that have a lot of babies mamas, they tend to be very handsome. They tend to be, not all the time, but many of them can be very handsome. They're very good in the bedroom, very smooth. They pretty much in some cases, and again, this is something that's actually pervasive throughout the animal kingdom, particularly in what they call trophy species. In trophy species, 5% of the males produce 95% of the females. And human beings are, sometimes we can be a trophy species depending on our culture. And if you listen to hip hop music, it really pushes forward that trophy species mindset. Look at how many women I've got. Look at how much money I've got. And that's kind of what happens in a trophy species. And look this up. You should go Google this. You've got two types of species in the animal kingdom. You've got trophy species and pair bonded species. Pair bonded species, the male and the female tend to be the same size. They raise the children together. There's a little bit more monogamy going on there, and a whole host of other things that occur that are based on that sort of norm. Trophy species, the males are bigger than the females. The males are very promiscuous. There's a lot of babies mamas in a trophy species, and there's a whole host of other factors that play a role in how the mating pattern occurs. And one of the things that Dr. Sapolsky said that was really interesting was he said that you can look at the size of the male. I think they call it dimorphism. You can look at the size of the male relative to the size of the female, and from that particular statistic you can tell almost everything else about how they mate. Now these are animals. Animals aren't thinking about whether or not they want to be a baby's mama or what people are going to think if they have a baby by a bad guy, whatever. They're just operating based solely on instinct almost, and this is what occurs. The males end up having sex with whoever they want. The females tend to be a lot more selective, and for various biological reasons, which you can look into yourself. Just go Google trophy species. Go Google Dr. Robert Sapolsky, and there's a whole literature on this. There's a whole lot of information on this that I think will help you understand why human beings do some of what we do. So So the point is that the males that get to do the most mating, they tend to be the alpha males. Maybe they're the tallest, the strongest, the smartest. They've got the most money, most resources, etc. And so there's a reason why women are attracted to these men. And don't think that you're just too smart and too strong to be sucked in by some of this, because the best way that I've seen young women get sucked in is by thinking that they're different, that they can just go and flirt around with a bad situation and mess with a guy who isn't good for them, and then they're going to be okay. But all the other babies' mamas, they're just stupid. No, the fact is that we can all be sucked in. So that's just my 2 cents on this. How you plan your family. It doesn't just start with when you have the baby, or when you who decide to have sex. Family planning really starts with who you choose to even let into your space. If you're letting deadbeats around you and people around you who are not good for your future, then you're not doing very good family planning. And family planning is an important part of wealth building. It's an important part of future building. Having a co-parent, it's like starting a lifelong business with another person. And every person that you go on a date with, every person you decide to sleep with, is a potential lifelong business partner. And you don't want to start a lifelong business with a partner who's already preoccupied with 20 other businesses that they've already started. A person who's going to drive your business into bankruptcy. A person who's going to be a horrible co-parent. A person who is so broke that he can't afford to pay child support. Or a person who has no future, no educational options, no employment options, no ethical values that will make that person into a good father. I'm talking about men in particular, but really it's true on the other side as well. I tell young men the same thing. Don't I mean, if you don't think that a woman's going to be a good mother for your kids, think twice about sleeping with her. You have to be thoughtful about where you plant your seed, and if you're not thoughtful, then you pretty much unfortunately deserve whatever you get. So that's just my 2 cents on this. I don't speak as a person who is perfect. I did have a baby out of wedlock when I was 18 years old. It didn't work out really in my favor. It was extremely difficult. I paid a lot of money in child support. It was a very frustrating 18 years, but I did my 18 years and then I was done. And after that, I didn't have any more kids out of wedlock because I knew how difficult it is. So that's just my 2 cents. I hope that this helps somebody, and I hope that you can forgive me for being candid and honest. And I don't know if any how much this sinks in, or in what way, but I encourage you to go get on the internet, Google some of this. Google Dr. Robert Sapolsky, Sopolsky. I think that it sounds like that's a Polish name, but maybe I'm wrong. Also Google trophy species and pair bonded species, and just read about attraction and mating and all this stuff, because if you really want to understand how human beings think, study animals. Animals will tell you everything, because animals don't operate based on preconceived cultural norms. Animals don't decide they want to be chauvinists or feminists and all this other stuff that leads us to decide how we should or supposed to conduct ourselves. Animals just operate based on instinct. And just the short answer, I don't know if I mentioned that to you or not, but Robert Sapolsky, when he was asked if human beings are a pair bonded species or a trophy species, he said we can be either one. And my theory is that culture and environment will shape whether you're part of the pair bonded group or part of the trophy group. And so, unfortunately, if you're born in families where there's a whole lot of baby mamaism going on, if you look at media, and the media influences, unfortunately, for a lot of urban kids these days, it's not built on sort of developing family and love and all that. It's really, the conversation's all about sex and how many women I have, and the whole peacock phenomenon. Look at how much money I have. Look at how I dominate other males. Therefore, you should want to mate with me. So what do you have? You have certain guys that will make all the babies and sleep with all the women, and then you have a lot of other guys that don't get to sleep with anybody because certain men have literally hogged up all the females. And so that's my theory in terms of what I'm seeing happening right now in the black community. But you don't have to be a part of that. I encourage you to march on your own path and be your own person. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.